Bro, Loki, you know what this reminds me of? This exactly reminds me of the fucking 6XL debacle in Grand Blue. This is exactly what this reminds me of. 6XL is literally a fast, like an advanced foreign plus move that you can't dodge, you can't avoid it basically. The only thing you can do is try to outpoke your opponent. But since the move moves forward, it extends the hitbox beyond them, and so most time you can't outrange it. 6XL is such a dumbass mechanic, bro. That on 6XL is one of the main reasons why I like Grand Blue is not enjoyable to play for long term. I hate 6XL as a mechanic. I don't like it. This Jack shit reminds me of that. Like it feels like the same mechanic.
Rolled into this big buzz around the FGC, I figured I'd just break down some of the more recent events in the development of some of the big games in the fighting game community and why the community is in a bit of an uproar here. Everyone's kind of pissed off, and it's just a bit of a questionable moment in this era of fighting games, because going into this generation of like the main titles, looking at Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, things started out really good. I mean, Street Fighter 6 alone is probably the greatest fighting game release of all time, but there have been problems on the road with the drip feed of content updates, including things like DLC characters. There's a slow rate of DLC updates with only 4 characters per season, and they're coming very slow. And then the balance updates are pretty slow, and there's no costumes. There's problems occurring in the Street Fighter 6 world as we have proceeded. The Tekken 8 started off very strong, but then slowly people started.
So before he gets into the Tekken space, which I don't know much about, Street Fighter 6, on the other hand, I've dabbled in and out of the community, or just in the game in general. I haven't really interacted with the community that much. But what he said is pretty much true. Pretty much all the content post-release has been very minimal, and then also it takes a long time. That really doesn't bother me too much because I'm playing Street Fighter for the core gameplay, and the core gameplay is really fun and interesting to me. Um, and so like I would say the only time where that actually the slow drip feed of content really matters is like new characters, but I at least to me I kind of justify that fact in the fact that game development is a lot more harder than what it was even a decade ago. And so, there's probably a lot of inside trouble going on at Capcom and the Street Fighter team that like it takes a while for things to get approved, and then also they're working on a game for multiple consoles for both the new and old generation. And then, they're also having to do promotional work and stuff like that, and it all has to come out relatively around the same time. So, I'm not one of the people that are so picky about like, we're only getting 4 characters a year. What is this ridiculous? Like, it's not that big a deal to me. It's just like I'm way more empathetic and more soft, I guess, when it comes to stuff like this.
To complain about the direction of the game, but they're getting regular updates. And then we had City of the Wolves coming out, and things were looking pretty good overall in terms of this generation of fighting games. And then things took a turn for the weird with this announcement from City of the Wolves. Cristiano Ronaldo, big news to share with everybody today. I'm going to be a character in the new fighting game Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. So yes, it's true. That teaser trailer they announced with Ronaldo earlier in the year, where it like had the metal doors in the soccer stadium, football stadium, and they didn't show the character. He's a real character in the game. I thought this was a joke. I literally did not expect him to actually be in the game, or rather I thought he might be affiliated with the marketing or an extra or have a stage for City of the Wolves. But no, they made him a fully fledged playable character, and I can't lie, I think he came out looking kind of cool. And to be honest, this wasn't what caused the uproar in the scene. I think this was mostly well received. I mean, I think Cristiano Ronaldo is the most famous athlete alive right now, and
Okay,
he
so
kind of looks.
Okay, so that's who this guy is. Yeah, I don't know anything about this situation, so I'm just gonna let Brian F take over. I'm not too familiar with, like, I knew this happened. I just don't know anything about it, you know? So
Interesting. I like the fact that he's a stance character. It incorporates the soccer ball in the move list, and I think he looks overall pretty interesting. It's a little jarring having a real human, a real person, be a guest character in the game itself, but overall, I feel like this is kind of a as successful of a pairing as you can get in this type of collaboration. I mean, I made this tweet when I thought they were joking, though they were serious, and for all intents and purposes, I think this might be the greatest or most successful, rather, fighting game collaboration of all time. I mean, this alone got 250K likes on Ronaldo.
really, the most success? Well, I guess would that be true? I guess collaboration with like other companies or like other like franchises. I guess that's true. But I think within like the fighting game genre, there's like plenty of collabs that a lot of people like would like probably more than this, but I'm not too sure.
Twitter. This caused a lot of buzz. I think more than any other move I could see any fighting game taking, I think this is going to be the move that gets more people outside of the
But
core
putting like
audience
real life
interested in
people
this
into
game.
fighting
So
games.
I can't knock him for it.
I mean, it's
Pretty
definitely an
big move
interesting
here
idea.
from SNK to get Ronaldo in your video game. And then after that, we had an update from 2XKO. Yes, they're still cooking up that game, where it was
Dude,
confirmed that 2XKO.
I will say this. I've heard so many good things about 2XKO, but like the fact that like it's been nothing but talk has me worried. Sorry, has me worried a bit because like it feels like a game that everyone's hyped for but doesn't exist. Like I know like the game was playable at a certain point for a lot of people. There was like this beta or something, but like literally I had never like touched the game. And like all the gameplay I've seen of it has only been like very few clips from like certain content creators. So like I don't know. It feels like 2SKO doesn't actually exist, but everyone's hyped about it and I'm just kind of like yeah, whenever the game comes out, it comes out. I guess. Like I don't. I'm not really hyped about it because like it feels like an anomaly of a game. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
will be launching with 10 characters, not champions. They're characters. I'm sorry. Once you come into the fighting game world, they're no longer champions. They're characters. It's just I'm gonna die on that hill. I'm sorry. Which is not a lot, right? Especially for a 2v2 game. You're going to be seeing a lot of the same characters. Now, there are a lot of grooves. I forget what they're called in this game, where you choose the
10 playable characters. Okay, so this might be a hot take of mine. I don't know if anybody else would agree with this, but the character roster of a fighting game is important when it comes to big name like big name franchises like Dragon Ball, for example. Most people are not gonna really get into a Dragon Ball game if there aren't like over like 30 plus characters to play. And I know Fighters released with 22 characters. So even then, like it wasn't it's a lot, but like for Dragon Ball standards, 22 is not a lot. So I feel like with a franchise like 2XKO, I think it comes from is it League of Legends? I'm not 100% sure. Uh, where a game does have a lot of characters, I feel like only having 10 wouldn't be a big deal if it wasn't. I'm assuming it's League of Legends. I'm not sure, but if it is League of Legends, the League of Legends that I'm familiar with, it has like over like 1,000 characters or some shit. Whereas like people are kind of expecting a little bit more than just 10. But I will take this stance that if the characters and gameplay are fluid and have various amounts of flexibility and uniqueness, I don't think it's a big deal. To me, I don't mind it being 10 characters as long as the 10 characters are very unique, have very good and flexible identities while also having, actual weaknesses because if you just release a fighting game where every character does the exact same thing or is overpowered in the exact same areas, it's like, well, it doesn't matter what character I pick. It's just like I pick technically best character, and like everybody else is just like that same character but worse. Like you want these characters to be different and have their own strengths and weaknesses, but if you're gonna release only 10 characters, you want them to be fluid enough to where they could fit in pretty much almost any situation. So the whole 10 characters thing doesn't bother me unless the game like until I get my hands on it. If I get my hands on it and every character is vastly unique, very different mechanics, different play styles, and interacts with the system mechanics differently and provides a different experience, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a small roster. It's like the same thing with Skullgirls. Like Skullgirls is one of those games where, now to be fair, Skullgirls I don't think had a franchise before the console games came out. I think the mobile game came out after the console game. But anyway, that game released with only like, I want to say 12 characters. Uh, I'm not sure, but it's around 10. Like it wasn't a lot of characters at the start, but all the characters are unique, were unique, and the gameplay style of like fluid combos and resets and high speed neutral was engaging enough to where the small character roster wasn't a big deal for a lot of people who play Skullgirls, because you could do a full team of three, you could do duos, you could do singles. The system mechanics, change whether or not you pick certain characters. And just like the overall game is very fluid and flexible with all of its characters. So if 2XKO is anything like Skullgirls in terms of flexibility and character design, I don't think this will be a big deal. I feel like people are putting too much on the number itself and not thinking about the quality of the characters. And it's just like that's the exact same thing that games like Sparking Zero and Tenkaichi have a problem with, at least to me. It's just that like all the characters in these types of games only have like maybe 5 playstyles, maybe at most, but you have like over 100 characters that you can play with, but like a lot of them play the exact same way. So it's like, I'm way more interested in actual good character design than overall giant rosters for most fighting games.
The different type of effect that the character has, which impacts the gameplay pretty heavily in terms of how the teams will operate. So there will be variety with those groups as well, but still, 10 characters. This game has potentially been in development since around 2016 is when I believe Riot purchased the studio working on this. So for all that time, for the release for this year to be 10 characters is pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie, that's really, really rough. Now, it is a free to play game, so I do expect there to be more continuous updates to push more characters as this goes. But this really left a big question mark. Like, it left me scratching my head a little bit. I'm like, this was supposed to be like the big shining moment in the FGC to become an official Riot game, to get to esports levels of like League of Legends, to get into the big
Okay, it
leagues,
is
to
League
become
of
a tier
Legends.
one
Okay.
esport. And so far, I'm a little trepidatious. Is that the word? Listen, someone tell me in the comments. Give me some big words to describe my hesitation, my unease with this coming release. It feels like it's not quite coming together quite how we expected, with these slow drip feed updates in between the last beta we had and its release date coming up. Little strange, little strange. So people are questioning.
Once again, I feel like people are focusing on the number too much. If the characters themselves are flexible, if the gameplay style allows for multiple different fighting styles and multiple different ways of playing the game, I feel like 10 characters that are completely unique, have good identities, and can can be played in a multitude of team combinations, or just be played on their own like the way Skullgirls does it. If a character is really good on their own but doesn't like teammates, you can play that. Or if you want to have that extra assist or extra tag in just in case, you can do that. Like if the game allows for lots of flexibility, I don't think 10 characters is a big deal, right? maybe that's a hot take. I don't think character roster matters as much for people that enjoy who will enjoy the gameplay aspect of a fighting game, which most people say they do, but then they also complain about stuff like this and like this game doesn't have a story mode or this game doesn't have offline content. And it's just like, but like you like the gameplay, right? That's kind of the whole point of fighting games. And you're like, no. It's like what? Just what? Anyway, I don't know. 10 characters is not a big deal to me. That might be a hot take, but it doesn't. 10 characters doesn't matter to me.
The state at which 2XKO would come out. Now, after that, we then had the Tekken 8 Season 2 balance patch. People were ready for more Tekken 8 content. They're ready to take this game in a more defensive direction.
I'm not even part of the Tekken FGC. Like I don't interact with them at all, but this literally blew up overnight. It was crazy. Like I didn't even know what was happening. I thought you would like the way that Tekken players were talking about Season 2, you would have thought like somebody like actually came into their house, literally gave them a bootleg version of Tekken, and then swapped it out with their like literally took the game out of their console, took the money that they used to buy it, and then gave them this bootleg version. Like you would have thought like somebody did something diabolical like that, but no, it was just a bad patch. Like I don't know. I don't know.
You know, Tekken 8 was very successful on launch, but you know, every legacy player is going to be complaining when the games change. But
true,
we're complaining that Tekken 8 is way too offensive. There's way too many forced mix-ups. Movement is not as strong as they would hope, so that they can navigate out of the mix-up situations. So they came out and said, we're going to buff defense. And then, in one of the first demonstrations of the upcoming balance patch, they showed
Yo, what? They just put chip damage on a broken throw. They just put chip damage.
Oh shit. Okay. Wait a minute. Granblue has this. Nah, this ain't a big deal. No, this is not a big deal to me.
On a broken throw. I don't care how little damage it does. I don't care how little damage that is. You've got to be shitting in my mouth.
Okay, to be fair, Granblue has this mechanic. It's only if you tech a throw with a button, to be fair. So you can negate it if you call out a grab by doing grab. So there's a workaround, but like shift damage on a throw, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not a Tekken player, so I don't know if this is a big deal or not.
You've got to be shitting in my mouth from FeedEx here. Yeah, they're demoing how on a successful throw tech, you would actually take a little bit of chip damage, which is absurd. Imagine successfully teching a throw in Street Fighter and losing some drive gauge or losing a little bit of health. So
like on the surface, it's absurd, right? But Granblue does it and does that mechanic well, I think. So maybe, well. Yeah, I guess it just depends, right, on the way they do it. But on the surface, this is a really bad idea. Yo, what's up, Ram? What's going on, my guy? Sparking Zero is a little crazy now. Dude, we're going to get to, like, the Sparking Zero aspect of this stream a little later, because I do have plenty of videos to go over. But I think Sparking Zero, from a gameplay perspective, is in a really good state right now. And, you know, I'm a little bit more motivated to actually play the game. It was a joke. Your category is set to Sparking Zero. Wait, is it? Wait, is it not set to just chatting? Oh, it is in Sparking Zero. Well, I'm gonna be talking about the game later anyway, so I'll be talking about that game later anyway. I know you streamed it last. Yeah. Sparking Zero put Brian F in the game. Bro, imagine. You got Brian F whose key blast is like a controller. He just throws like freaking arcade sticks at the opponent. And then his ultimate is like he does like a fighting game like input. Like, you play, like, fucking, like, this input minigame, and the more inputs you do, the more damage you do. Honestly, that'd be fire. That'd be stupid, but it'd be cool. Oops.
So much for buffing defense, right? And Tekken throws is a skill in Tekken. It requires they're reactable, right? So the awareness that you build and understanding which throw tech to do, it's a legacy skill essentially. So to be punished for teching a throw was antithetical to the core beliefs of many longtime Tekken fans. And you know what? They listened. This was before the patch actually went out. They're big W here. Listen to the community feedback and reverse the throw chip damage. So they actually went and said, hey, you know what, you guys, we heard you.
Oh, cool.
We're going to not go in this direction. We're going to revert that change and not have chip damage on the throws. And then the actual Season 2 balance patch came out. And while they promised buffing defense, they did buff sidestep a little bit to enhance its movement to evade certain moves. We ended up with gameplay like this.
All right, well, I still got promotion. I'm getting like a half a rank. Bro, what is this? Oh, he knows?
Jesus.
Okay, well.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
So
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Just Diaphone here beating up on someone who doesn't know how to play Tekken. They introduced in this balance patch a lot of homing moves with plus frames that are, since they're homing, they're going to deal with sidestep effectively. So we're not going to be able to get out of the way. And especially with the case of Jack, they can end up looping into each other over and over to put people in a really degenerate mix. In fact, it gets so bad that here we have Chai here.
Dude, there's no way I'm doing this.
With the help of his buddy narrating a little bit. Playing blindfolded with Jack 7.
Oh my god.
Nice. Yeah, just keep doing that shit, man. What's he gonna fucking do? Get a new game? That's the only answer, buddy. Nice heat first. Keep going.
Yep, getting plus frames all over the place.
I don't even know what the fuck's going on.
Gets the throw tech.
You're still on P1?
Thank you everyone for making it this far into the video. Just gonna take a quick break to do some shoutouts. First, shoutouts to my friends' channels. Please consider checking them out as they provide a variety of content, so at least one of them will have something that you'll enjoy. Second, if you live near the York, PA area, please head down to Ready Up Gaming Lounge. It's a place where gamers from every genre can come together and play in a comfortable and chill environment. They are open from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day and hold dedicated events every week. For my channel's interest, they run Fighting Fridays, where for $5.30, you can play a multitude of fighting games with various players. They have big games like Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but they also have niche games like Dragon Ball FighterZ, Guilty Gear Strive, Rivals of Ether 2, and more. Finally, shout out to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You guys really make doing content fun and worth pursuing. Alright, back to the video. Bro, Loki, you know what this reminds me of? This exactly reminds me of the fucking 6XL debacle in Grand Blue. This is exactly what this reminds me of. 6XL is literally a fast, like an advanced foreign plus move that you can't dodge, you can't avoid it basically. The only thing you can do is try to outpoke your opponent. But since the move moves forward, it extends the hitbox beyond them, and so most time you can't outrange it. 6XL is such a dumbass mechanic, bro. That on 6XL is one of the main reasons why Grand Blue is not enjoyable to play for long term. I hate 6XL as a mechanic. I don't like it. This Jack shit reminds me of that. Like it feels like the same mechanic.
Nice, your turn. Nice, he's one hit, but he's got a lot of recoverables. Hey, that shit with the power crush, baby. Oh my
Actually
God.
winning while blindfolded.
Woo.
And with the rank up as well. And so this has been happening all over the place. And here Chris has a nice translation for us Street Fighter heads to help understand what's going on with these changes. Tekken 8 Season 2 balance patch changes for Street Fighter 6 players. We're buffing defense. Added recovery to throw with, you can jump and not get DP'd. Jinrai is -1 on block. New mechanic, Drive Warp. Warp to opponent with an attack for +3 on block. Drive Rush with none of that neutral nonsense. So yeah, so they did buff defense in some inconsequential ways, but they're inconsequential because of all the buffs to the offense that they gave across the cast here. With obviously, I think Jack and Paul are considered the biggest offenders right now with these buffs. But yeah, it just showed that the changes were antithetical to the hopes of what the players wanted, and also not what the devs promised, because a lot of the communication leading up to this was in the vein of, we hear you about offense being too strong, we're trying to buff defense a little bit, and they delivered the exact opposite to the players. And I'm telling you, this has been causing a big stink. The Tekken community,
yeah, this is a really big deal when it came out.
I've never seen this amount of negativity in reaction to a balance patch or update to a fighting game ever.
True.
I've been playing fighting games for 10 plus years now. I've never seen this much negativity. I mean, people are always negative, right? Any balance patch, any update, any new iteration, there's going to be some people pissed. I've never seen this much consensus around the negativity.
Yeah, the Tekken 8 shit was crazy. Even I heard about it, and I don't even play Tekken.
It started getting out into more like mainstream gaming and social media news sources. Here's Dexerto. Tekken 8 Season 2 update has some pro players and streamers threatening to quit the game unless it gets reverted or hotfixed. Steam reviews have plummeted, with recent reviews being mostly negative. Look at the reviews! These are the most recent reviews. Look at all the negative reviews. So it's getting a little bit review bombed right now, but some people are saying it's justified because it's just that bad. One Tekken 8 Pro was even filing out job applications on stream. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Time to start flipping burgers, buddy.
That's good.
And there was a response from the Tekken team here. Fighters, we are aware of the current community feedback regarding Tekken 8 Season 2. We're carefully reviewing the balance changes of the game. Expect more information about these changes soon. And then, in addition, an emergency patch will be released in April to address the following issues. So, only in April will they address Paul's spammable Hammer of the Gods and Jack 8's jab elbow to make.
He's only been playing fighting games for 10 plus years. Youngin, 20 plus for you. God damn. I think he started in Street Fighter 4. Right? Street Fighter 4 was like 10 years ago, right? I know I think Brian S started in Street Fighter 4. Or maybe Street Fighter 5, I'm not sure. But yeah. To be fair, I've only been playing fighting games for like Fighters came out 7 years ago, so yeah, 7 years. Tekken 3 is Smash 64 was your first fighting games. I mean, those aren't bad titles to start with. Shit, that's that legacy shit.
Make some noise, that new move that we just saw the guy went blindfolded with. So they're going to be hotfixing those two sequences, but yeah, it sounds like they're just going to be reviewing the updates. It's not going to be reverted or changed anytime soon. And this has caused a lot of dooming in the Tekken community. In fact, Broski here says, Tekken players showed up in my chat self-describing as refugees. Are you guys doing okay over there? And I saw this as well. I streamed once and I saw some Tekken refugees as well.
Tekken
and let me
refugees.
tell you, you will find no solace in these Street Fighter 6 streets, or maybe you will, I don't know. But if you're expecting to be able to outmaneuver your opponent to avoid hard 50-50s, Street Fighter 6 is not going to be the game for you. I guess you can out-nooch them a little bit, but yeah, you're going to get throw looped at some point. Like you gotta do some RPS. You're gonna flip some coins.
So I've already talked about this in a video where people are talking about like how defense doesn't matter that much in fighting games, and I've already gone through my whole spiel and little mini rants about it. So I won't go in depth right now, but it's just like I've played Street Fighter 6 before for a good bit, not like its entirety lifespan, but I played a good amount with like my local gaming scene, and like the amount of times that, how should I word this? Like, the offense in Street Fighter 6 mostly comes down to drive gauge, right? Drive rush and stuff like that. In my experience, the amount of times that if you abuse the system, you literally just straight up just lose happens a lot. There's plenty of times when people are just like, including myself, just uses drive rush all the time. Just because, like, people like instilled that mentality that like if you drive rush in the opponent's face, you just automatically win, and it's just like that's just solely not true, and it's like it's kind of weird, at least for Street Fighter's case like that. People like are just like, oh, Street Fighter 6 is just it's the drive rush game, and you can't do anything to stop it, and it's just like, did no, like maybe at launch it was way worse, but like now it's way more manageable to deal with for me. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm not a pro player, but like for me, like Drive Rush does not. It's very oppressive. It is, but first of all, it doesn't last forever. Second of all, there's ways to maneuver around it or like punish your opponent. But it also depends on which character you are. Like if you're playing like Zangief, like you get drive rushed on, your ass is getting put in the corner, you know. But you know, I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal, at least for Street Fighter's case.
Points for sure. I can't imagine too many people making the switch, but it's possible. It definitely is possible.
No, Tekken players won't ever play Street Fighter.
Interesting thing here is, I thought this was going to be the talk of the town for quite some time, but in the face of all this doom and gloom and people fleeing away from Tekken 8, City of the Wolves decided that, hey, how can I make this about me? And today, as of time of recording this,
what happened?
Dropped this trailer and tweet here. World famous DJ Salvatore Ganassi spins into Fatal Fury City of the Wolves.
What the fuck is that?
Trailer. And I was very confused at first. I was very confused. Salvatore Ganassi. Who? This isn't a joke. This is a DJ. This guy is a real life DJ that they just happened to make into a fighting game character for I don't know what reason. They did a whole promotional trailer. Let me grab that here.
Nah, bro, they gotta be paying for this game, right? There's no way. Like they have to be like funding the game and the company in order for them to be in these games. Like I feel like that's like the baseline for like collabs like this. Or maybe they're just marketing, but like I have never heard of this guy before. They gotta be doing like some backwaters, like supporting the company type shit. I don't know. That's so weird.
Joining forces with the artist Salvatore Ganassi. This is the one I saw first, and based on the wording here, I thought this was a collaboration to do some kind of promotional trailer. It's an artist. I thought maybe he would do some artwork, do some editing for a trailer. No, it's this kid. It's his life story as a kid, saying he wants to be in a video game growing up, and he ends up being in a video game. He's a random fucking DJ.
I've never heard of bro.
This isn't the world's most famous athlete. This is not even the world's most famous musician or DJ. This is just a dude who got put into SNK City of the Wolves. The human himself got put into the game. So he actually, the worst part about this is, I mean, I think as a character, the DJ himself, he does have some animated characteristics, so it's not like he can't be translated to a fighting game character. And I kind of like the gameplay they showed off, but it's just so strange that this regular ass guy got put into the game as a fighting game character in a franchise like, you know, with SNK, with their rich history of fighting game characters to pull from and their ability to design unique in-world new characters. They put another human being in the game. Ronaldo was one thing, right? But I think Chris F sums it up here. Who is Salvatore Ganassi and why is he in a fighting game? That is the question on everyone's mind.
Yeah, I don't even.
We're so confused. Everyone stopped hating on Tekken 8 Season 2 for a moment to do a collective what when this trailer was released. This got no positive reception. It got no traction. And
God damn.
Look, like I said, you can make the argument, okay, well, they already put Ronaldo in the game. Why can't they put this DJ in the game? Well, Cristiano Ronaldo has 651 million followers on Instagram. Salvatore Ganassi, 435,000 followers. We're not even in the same order of magnitude. There's many, many zeros separating these guys in terms of their reach. This is just an EDM DJ. I'm sure he's awesome at what he does. I've never heard of this guy in my entire life. Why is he regular human in City of the Wolves? Well, there might actually be some reasoning here.
He's got to
We've
be.
had some
He's
clues
got.
we
He's
can
got to
dig
be
up.
funding the game in some way.
So who is Salvatore Ganacci? He's a DJ. Does he like fighting games? Honest question. He's a DJ who is tight with MBS, which is why he's in the game. Ganacci does a lot of concerts in Saudi Arabia and is doing a big concert in Riyadh the day City of the Wolves releases. He has also worked on past projects like designing the golf carts for the Saudi Golf Tour. And if you don't know, MBS is, I apologize if I don't pronounce his name correctly here, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud. And he is the Saudi crown prince, prime minister. So it's a DJ who's tight with the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. And if you've been under a rock, that is significant because, Saudi Arabia now owns 96% of the SNK Corporation.
That I did not know.
If you start putting the pieces together, Cristiano Ronaldo he's now works for the Saudi Arabian Football Club. This is all moves from the influence of Saudi Arabia. So on top of that,
I see.
City of the Wolves is being pushed into the Esports World Cup, which is run by the Saudi Arabian government. It's all coming together, man. This entire experience with City of the Wolves is all under influence of Saudi government money. And so much for this statement here. SNK says Saudi Arabia's 96% ownership doesn't affect us in any way. That was in 2022. 3 years later, it is very clear that it strongly affects you and it drives a huge portion of how your product is created, marketed, and its entire existence in this ecosystem, right? Cristiano Ronaldo and SNK did not pay for Cristiano Ronaldo. They cannot afford that. Let's be very clear. Saudi Arabia can afford that. And I guess Salvatore, he's just, MBS is just tight with that dude and just wanted him in the game. I don't know. Very strange things going on, but it's not done necessarily to make the game the best possible game for the fans and for the community at large. That is not the...
That is such a weird and unique type of situation. Like, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, what do I say? Like, that's so outside of my reach of, like, expertise and, like, what I know. Like, I don't know what to say to that. That is such a weird and bizarre situation. That's why people were boycotting the game at first, because of Saudi Arabia's stance on gay and trans people. But then everyone backpedaled and bought the game anyway. Yeah, that sounds like the internet. Ram, I'm gonna tell you this, brother. I don't know if you know about this rule, but literally give any situation that is mostly online focused, give it about 2 weeks. Give it about 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks, majority of the people would have forgotten about it and just gone back to whatever they were doing before. It happens so many times. Like, there was actually there's tons of situations. I don't even know where to begin. But, like, just to keep it simple, the last patch of fighters buffed a lot of characters that were already top tier. People were bitching about it for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, nobody cares anymore. Every character in that game is broken now, so, like, nobody cares. Just give it 2 weeks, and everybody will just fall back in line.
Focus, that is not the reason why these moves are being made. I think Ronaldo makes sense for the world at large, but I think with Salvatore, it's become clear that this is not a priority. Appealing to the fans and the audiences is not a priority for this anymore. It's just whatever influence Saudi Arabia throws their way, they are abiding by those wishes. In the meantime, I haven't forgotten about you, Street Fighter 6. You are not innocent in this whole situation here. So with all these weird happenings with all these other major fighting game franchises, Street Fighter 6 announced Street Fighter 6 Years 1 through 2 edition to coincide with the release of the Switch 2, which will bundle together all the DLC so far. Plus,
I feel like this is the like this seems like Street Fighter 6 Years 1 through 2 seems like the least controversial thing here. We'll see what Brian F has to say about
a
it.
few Switch specific modes for the Switch release.
This feels like the least controversial thing about everything on this list.
But that's it. That is it. No balance patch update. Elena, no gameplay trailer. And in 1 month, we're about to have the first event for the upcoming 2025 CPT Tour, EVO Japan. In 1 month. And we have no balance update at all. we might be going into the next CPT season playing the last season's balance patch, which is bizarre. Radio silence on that front from Capcom. Very strange. In the past, to be clear with the timeline, we used to have Capcom Cup finals, and sometimes that night, the next season balance patch with all the patch notes would release. Literally, I remember in 2018 Capcom Cup, during the grand finals, they accidentally put the balance patch live during grand finals.
Damn.
And people were on their phones looking at Kage, who got released as a DLC character, plus the balance patch right then during Capcom Cup finals.
Damn.
But it was always finish the CPT season, finish Capcom Cup, and immediately put out the balance patch. Have 2 months to 3 or 2 to 4 months of off season for the competitors to get used to the new meta, and then start the competitive season from there on out. What is going on? The schedule is totally borked. It's been like this for quite some time, but it's really coming to a head now that this lack of content updates is going to really start to clash with the schedule of the competitive season. So Street Fighter 6 is doing the best possible right now by just laying low while everyone else is taking the heat, but they're still dropping the ball in a major way here. I think the game is still great, don't get me wrong, but it just feels like they're not delivering on the live service part of the product, and we're not getting the game updated. And, you know, some people are getting frustrated with the meta. We still have a really throw loop heavy game.
True. That's the one thing about Street Fighter 6. Once again, there's always like that one or two things that stop me from playing like fighting games like in general. Grand Blue is like 6XL. Dragon Ball is sparking and Limit Break. Street Fighter 6 is throw loops. I don't play Street Fighter 6 as much as I probably should for my local group. Because I do want to get better at the game, but I just don't play it outside of the group because I don't think Street Fighter 6 is fun to play in an online setting. To me, it's just not as fun. And one of the big reasons of that is because throw loops exist. It's not fun just getting throw looped in the corner, and that has nothing to do with drive gauge, by the way. It's kind of funny how that works out. The most broken mechanic or most broken setup in the game has nothing to do with drive rush. It's kind of funny.
There's still some I definitely have some problems with the gameplay itself. I think it's a great game, but I would like Elena to come out. I would like to have some announcement for future DLC. I would like to see some changes to keep the meta fresh, but I don't know what's going on. I mean, the big assumption here is that Monster Hunter is where a lot of the resources from the development teams were moved over to. Full steam ahead on that IP, which does make the most money for Capcom. So that could be a big part of it. But other than that, it's all speculation. We don't know. And that's when I had this tweet here. SNK taking the heat off of the Tekken 8 Season 2 balance patch uproar, while Street Fighter 6 is just going into the next CPT season quietly without a Season 3 update. Weird time for fighting game fans. Yeah, it's weird. Anyways, hopefully things look up for the genre as a whole coming up. We started off this generation with a lot of high hopes, and it hasn't delivered as much as I would have expected 2 years ago. We'll see where it goes from here. Hopefully up. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Alright, so... Oh wait, this is the next video. Okay, let me go back.
The fighting game community is...
So, I will say this. I feel like... Okay, so this might be another hot or stupid take, but I feel like fighting game fans need to realize, or just the gaming community as a whole, I feel like they need to look beyond the scope of just their games, because like Brian F talked about in this video, is that SNK is being influenced by real world politics, real world events and stuff like that. And I feel like a major reason why fighting games are not in the best state is because they're being affected by outside forces, whether it's economic, whether it's lack of developers in their team, or development teams changing schedules, or maybe the team is being made small for other titles within the company. Like outside influences are affecting fighting games, And I feel like a lot of people in this genre, in the community, just kind of look at the game and development team, and that's it. And they're like, "This is the game. We expect X. If you don't deliver on X, you guys are lazy and bad at your jobs." When I would argue that like 80 to like maybe 90% of the time, it's not that. I maybe I'm optimistic, but I feel like whatever's happening with these companies and stuff like that, Tekken not as much, because I feel like their balance patch was like really bad. Like from what I understand, like that has nothing to do with outside influences. It's just them not understanding their audience. But for Street Fighter and SNK, like I feel like their problems is more of outside forces than inside forces, and I feel like people just need to be more understanding and willing to be calm and just how should I say this? Like be willing to be like, hey, this is probably like a bad time, and let's not beat the devs over the head with a brick when they're already down. And to be fair, the developers don't tell us that they're in a weakened state or they don't have enough people or whatever forces affect them is why their game is in this state. Of course, they're not going to say that because, you know, that would just go into like a whole other shenanigans, right? That would just open the door up for so much more controversy. And it's just like, maybe it's just like I said, maybe it's just me being more optimistic and more empathetic. These situations is definitely not the best for the fighting game community, but unless we know more information about what's going on, I'm not gonna, you know, go at the devs wholeheartedly and be like, you guys suck at your job. This is unacceptable. Previous games like Street Fighter 5 did X, 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 and X, and this and that. And it's just like, times are different. The situation around the globe is different. And I feel like outside influences are affecting fighting games and their companies a lot more than people realize. And I feel like people need to be more empathetic to people that work on video games in general, but especially in the fighting game community, which is very small. And you know, I feel like we need the overall fighting game community needs to be more empathetic to situations like this. Yo, what's up, Beldo? I'm on break with sound off because there's another coworker in here. But yeah, this video is a good video. Just an overall update video. Nothing too spicy here. I will put the link to this video in the chat.